Introducing our third man in the ring, our referee in charge of the action, Thomas Taylor.
As Terence Crawford, the undefeated fighter from right here in Omaha, and he has this city abuzz, I assure you.
Okay. So, Canelo Alvarez!
Now to give the instructions.
Fight night at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas throbbed with electricity long before the opening bell. 70,000 voices rose in unison beneath the blazing lights, a sea of flags, chants, and restless anticipation. On one side stood Canelo Alvarez, the embodiment of Mexican pride, a warrior whose legacy had been forged through blood, sweat, and more than a decade of dominance. On the other stood Terence "Bud" Crawford, the flawless technician, undefeated and often whispered to be the true pound-for-pound king. But he had never faced a challenge of this magnitude. This was no ordinary showdown. It was a generational collision. Power against precision. The established king against a relentless challenger, determined to etch his name into history. Everyone in the arena felt it. The fighters knew it. And as cameras swept across the roaring stadium, it was clear this night was destined for boxing immortality. Backstage, the atmosphere told its own story. Canelo sat composed, almost stone-faced, as his hands were wrapped in the same ritual he had repeated countless times before. His gaze was fixed, unblinking, as though he could already see every strike he intended to deliver. His warm-up was measured and controlled, a predator conserving energy before the hunt. Crawford, by contrast, was restless. He paced like a caged animal, snapping into shadowboxing with sharp precision, switching seamlessly between orthodox and southpaw. Every feint, every pivot looked like a rehearsal for the storm he was preparing to unleash. Then came the walkouts. Canelo emerged first, greeted by an eruption of cheers as Mexican flags painted the arena in red, white, and green. His stride was steady and confident, the march of a champion who had walked this path countless times. Moments later, Crawford followed. His face was carved from stone, his focus razor-sharp. No theatrics, no distractions. Just a man walking toward destiny, carrying an aura that demanded respect. Confidence filled the air as both fighters finally stood face-to-face at the center of the ring. The noise was deafening, a thunderous wave that drowned out the referee's instructions. Nobody was listening anyway. The arena already knew history was about to unfold. The bell rang. Canelo wasted no time. He pressed forward like a predator, gloves tight, immediately ripping shots to the body. Crawford circled with calm precision, eyes locked on every movement. His jab cracked out like a whip, sharp reminders that he wasn't there to be bullied. Then came a thudding right hand from Canelo, buried into Crawford's ribs. The sound echoed in the split second of silence before the crowd erupted. A statement. This is my ring. But Crawford didn't flinch. He stayed disciplined, countering with crisp lefts that interrupted Canelo's rhythm. As the round ticked down, they met in the center, trading blows. Canelo's brute power against Crawford's surgical precision. The bell rang with the fight still balanced, but one thing was clear. Canelo's physicality was going to matter. Round 2 began with the same aggression. Canelo cut off the ring, forcing Crawford into tight corners. Midway through, he smashed a left hook to the body that shoved Crawford backward for the first time. The crowd roared, sensing a crack in the challenger's armor. But Crawford's response was unexpected. He smiled. A sly grin, the kind only fighters wear when they've figured something out. Moments later, he slipped a Canelo jab and fired back a clean right hand straight down the pipe. Canelo's head snapped back. The arena gasped. It wasn't enough to seize control, but it sent a message. Crawford wasn't going anywhere. By the end of the round, momentum felt uncertain. Canelo had shown his power. Crawford had shown his composure. The battle lines were drawn. Crawford answered with precision. The fight had shifted into a chess match fought with fists. Canelo advanced methodically, gloves high, punishing the body whenever an opening appeared. His strategy was clear. slow Crawford down early and attack the legs and movement that made him so elusive. But Crawford adapted. He glided around the ring, switching stances effortlessly, keeping Canelo off balance. From southpaw, his jab snapped Canelo's head back again and again. From orthodox, he peppered him with stinging right hands that scored clean. Midway through the round, the two collided at the center ring, unleashing furious flurries. Canelo's hooks whipped past Crawford's guard, while Crawford's counters found their mark. With each exchange, the crowd roared louder. By the bell, the shift was undeniable. Crawford wasn't just surviving. He was finding his rhythm. Canelo came out hot in the next round, determined to reclaim control. His punches dug into Crawford's body like sledgehammers, each thud echoing across the canvas and drawing wild cheers. He strung combinations together, left hook to the ribs, straight right upstairs, another hook to the midsection. For a moment, Crawford slowed, his movement less fluid. Then came the moment that split the arena wide open. Canelo uncorked a crushing right hand to the temple that staggered Crawford. Gasps rippled through the stadium. But Crawford didn't retreat. Instead, he fired back instantly with a perfectly timed uppercut that sliced through Canelo's guard. Canelo's head snapped back, and in that instant the momentum shifted. What followed belonged on highlight reels. Both men stood their ground at center ring, trading savage blows. Canelo swinging with raw power, Crawford answering with surgical counters. Neither man yielded. When the bell rang, the crowd was on its feet, the stadium shaking with energy. This wasn't just a fight anymore. It was a war, and neither champion showed any intention of breaking first. The atmosphere inside Allegiant Stadium grew suffocating with tension. Every landed punch brought a roar. Every slip, every miss, a gasp. And still, Canelo pressed forward, digging at the body with the kind of punishment designed to wear a man down. Canelo hammered away with the thudding body shots that had broken opponents for years. Each hook reverberated like a drumbeat, a reminder of his legendary power. But Crawford refused to be bullied. His jab became a razor-sharp weapon, snapping into Canelo's face with sniper-like precision. Every strike was measured, exact, and disruptive. Midway through the round, Crawford's timing struck gold. As Canelo lunged forward with a looping hook, Crawford slipped inside and fired a short, crisp left-hand square to the jaw. For a split second, Canelo froze, blinking as if to clear his head. The crowd exploded. Was this the opening? Crawford didn't get reckless. He stayed composed, peppering Canelo with clean shots that showed he was very much in control of the fight. When the bell rang, neither man had dominated, but one truth was clear. This was becoming a war of attrition. Not about who could throw more punches, but who could withstand more. Round 6 opened with urgency. Both men sensed a turning point. Canelo charged forward in bursts, unleashing heavy combinations with bad intentions. But this time, his accuracy betrayed him. Punches that once landed clean now glanced off Crawford's gloves or cut through empty air. Crawford, by contrast, was sharp. He slipped and pivoted, darting in and out of range, tagging Canelo with quick jabs and crisp counters. And each shot wasn't just scoring points, it was sending a message. Crawford's persistence was wearing on Canelo's composure. By the second half of the round, the contrast in styles was undeniable. Canelo hunted for a single decisive moment, while Crawford chipped away, punch by punch, carving out control of the fight. Still, nothing was certain. Both corners shouted frantic instructions as the bell rang, the stadium caught between chaos and suspense. The tide was shifting, but the fight remained razor close. For the first time all night, exhaustion crept in. Canelo's movements slowed. His punches, though still dangerous, lost their snap. The relentless aggression of the early rounds had dulled into labored steps and heavier breaths. Crawford saw his chance. Slipping inside a lazy jab, he unleashed a blistering 3-punch combination. A stiff jab, a straight left, and a whipping right hook that crashed against Canelo's jaw. The champion stumbled back a half step, his guard briefly split. The crowd erupted. For the first time, Canelo looked vulnerable. Crawford pressed forward, landing another flurry that had fans on their feet. Sensing the danger, Canelo answered with heavy artillery, but his accuracy faltered. Crawford's defense absorbed the blows, and his counters punished every mistake. The bell sounded. Crawford strode confidently to his corner, while Canelo sank onto his stool, his team scrambling to lift him. For the first time, it didn't just feel like a fight. It felt like the torch might actually be passing. When the final round loomed, the crowd was already standing. 70,000 voices merged into a deafening roar, knowing the last 3 minutes would decide history. Canelo rose from his stool with determination etched across his face. His body bore the marks of war, swollen ribs, sweat streaming, breaths heavy, but his pride drove him forward. He lifted his gloves high and marched to the center of the ring. Across from him, Crawford was calm, composed, and cold. His eyes locked on Canelo's with the look of a man who had been waiting for this exact moment. Canelo stood ready, scanning for openings, his stance light but desperate. The bell echoed through Allegiant Stadium, and both men charged into battle. Canelo unleashed furious combinations, ripping to the body and firing upstairs, searching for one last miracle to turn the tide. The crowd roared with every punch, urging their hero forward. But Crawford's composure was unshakable. He slipped, blocked, and answered back with sharp counters that landed clean. Halfway through the round came the defining moment. Canelo lunged in with a looping right. Crawford saw it coming. He stepped inside and fired a devastating straight right down the middle, snapping Canelo's head back. Before the crowd could even react, Crawford followed with a blistering left hook that staggered the champion onto shaky legs. Gasps turned into chaos. Some fans screamed in disbelief. Others chanted Crawford's name. Sensing blood, Crawford pressed the attack. His punches flowed in vicious flurries, crisp jabs, slicing uppercuts, and sharp hooks tearing through Canelo's guard. Each landed with precision, unanswered. Canelo's back hit the ropes. His defense faltered, his counters wild and desperate. The final 30 seconds felt endless as Crawford poured on the assault, commanding the ring. Canelo fought on pride alone, willing himself through the storm. The bell rang, saving him from a possible stoppage. Both men staggered to their corners, drenched in sweat, faces marked by battle. The arena shook with electricity. They had just witnessed a war for the ages. At the center ring, the fighters stood side by side, chests heaving, waiting for the verdict. The announcer's voice boomed across the silent stadium. Ladies and gentlemen, after 8 rounds of action, we go to the scorecards. All 3 judges score the contest 78-74. For your winner, by unanimous decision. The pause lasted only a second, but it felt eternal. Terence "Bud" Crawford. The arena erupted in chaos. Some fans cheered, others stood frozen in disbelief. A tidal wave of shouts and chants swept through the building. Crawford raised his arms high, victorious. Across from him, Canelo nodded in respect, a warrior bested on this night. In his post-fight interview, ever the professional, Canelo admitted the truth. He was sharper tonight. I gave it everything I had, but he earned this victory. And with that, history was written. I gave my all, Canelo admitted. But Crawford was the better man tonight. That's boxing. Calm yet proud, Crawford spoke with the words that defined his career. I told the world, skills pay the bills. Tonight, I proved it. Almost instantly, fans and analysts erupted online. Was this the passing of the torch? Had Crawford cemented himself as the undisputed best of his generation? Debate raged across social media and sports networks, the shockwaves spreading far beyond Las Vegas. As the stadium slowly emptied, the energy lingered like smoke after a fire. Canelo Alvarez, the longtime king, walked away knowing his throne had finally been shaken. His legacy remained untouchable, legendary. But for the first time, it looked mortal. Terence Crawford, undefeated and now standing atop the boxing world, left with his name etched into history. He hadn't just won a fight, he had conquered the face of an era. And as fans poured out into the Las Vegas night, one question echoed louder than all the others. After toppling Canelo Alvarez, who could possibly stop Terence "Bud" Crawford?